Hey, Sheeples. This is
Hello,
Z.
hello, hello, sheeples. This is the
It is
guy
not
with no
Z.
name. This is not Z.
I was like, let's be binary, bitches.
uh,
Uh, we're,
honestly, I
we're
think.
recording after a while. It's
Oh
been
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's been
ever
a week.
since we switched to the whole once a week episodes. So, we were very aspirational. Ki, हाँ, अपन तो हर 3 दिन we'll record and then
Uh,
we'll have a nice content library. And we're on Saturday and we're like, shit, we don't have content to put out. Let's create it.
but honestly, like I think this has been a really funny week for us.
Yeah,
We had planned to record this episode for I don't know what. Like last we've been thinking about it since last Saturday since we
yeah,
removed the
correct,
previous one,
correct.
and we were like yeah, we'll record. Then in the middle there was the whole storm tension
Yeah,
problem.
for those who are not from India, we apart from going through COVID like the rest of the world is, there was also supposed to be like a huge cyclone alert
Yeah,
for a specific city we are in, which is Bombay.
Mumbai. Yeah,
Yeah, no, wait. Mumbai is a city. Bombay is a feeling. Like,
yeah, Bombay is a feeling for sure.
but please don't beat us up, okay? If you're from politics,
Yeah,
we'll call it Mumbai for you, no
अरे
problem.
अरे that's a
मैं
weird
बेंड
thought to
ओवर
have.
करूंगा मुंबई अरे बॉम्बे कौन बोला बॉम्बे कौन बोला हाँ कौन बोला
but
बॉम्बे
but yeah, honestly, like I think because of that one thing, Z
मजाक कर रहा
sad.
हूँ मारना मत ना प्लीज
Z sadly had his electricity kind of
oh yeah
like
like
completely
a
like got what wasn't there at home
dude an
for
entire
what, how
like
many, 2 days, 3 days,
the,
what
the
was it?
so like usually the wind speeds are supposed to be around 20 to 30 kilometers per hour. I mean, this particular day it was about 120 kilometers and like an
Hmm.
entire like an old tree just fell and it crashed into like the electricity room and it damaged a
Oof.
lot of stuff and it was raining crazy and it didn't have anybody to come repair it. So the entire building was out of power for
Yeah.
like a whole. And anyways, it doesn't matter since my Wi-Fi is is pretty moody. So power,
Ye-
their power, no power, it has a
yeah.
mind of its own.
So the Wi-Fi finally,
Yeah,
by
finally, man.
some like I don't know miracle was
The
back today.
internet gods were
Yeah,
listening.
the internet gods were listening,
मैं
and
नंगे पाँव चल के गया घर.
luckily on the day we are supposed to remove this
Yeah,
episode,
this
which is
this is bizarre. This is
Saturday, 6th
I,
June Saturday.
I know.
It's actually back and we can finally record it. So you know
Yeah.
what? This is a very last minute thing, but we are really happy that we can do it.
Well,
So
but of course, none of y'all are going to find this out because it comes out on time, right? all of this
although
anxiety happened in the background. So like
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
listeners are
this
like,
was
क्या हो ये लोग ये time पे तो आते episode like what
very
the
very very apt for our episode. The anxiety of not being able to remove the episode only got us.
fuck? Yes, I mean,
But
as you figured
yeah,
from the title, we're trying to like put the spotlight on a topic that's been sulking in the shadows for far too long. I mean, both of us have had our personal experiences, yes, and I'm sure the person right now who's listening to this has also gone through anxiety at some
yeah,
point. Whether you've actively identified it as anxiety or not, it doesn't matter. But that there are a lot of experts who go on to say that anxiety is more frequent than we think. And we figured that mental health has been the backbone. It's been like it was the first episode, right?
yeah.
We
I mean,
began with.
that's what got us going, right? Like the
Yeah,
question of what are we doing and why are we like stuck in this rut in a way was what got
correct,
us to start this podcast. And
correct.
I think we wanna kind of keep this conversation about mental health going
Mhm.
because even though like we do have a lot of fun like with our episodes and all that stuff, and we wanna also do serious things, kind of like helping the society in some ways, maybe help doing some other kinds of maybe things that will help someone who's listening, right? And whether it be through mental health or I don't know, whether it be through some topics that we talk about like storytelling and all those kind of things. It's just like some things that we feel we need to talk about or can help someone in general,
Yeah.
and
True.
it
And then
works out.
if
Yeah.
this is your first time listening to the Sheeples, I'm going to say something that we say very frequently that Sheeples was envisioned to be a virtual safe space
Mhm.
for people out there probably not had the best childhoods, or probably aren't having the best adulthoods. You might have had scars that you've identified or you've not. But deep down, there is this dissatisfaction amongst each of us. And conventional media or conventional platforms don't really help out when you go to Facebook or an Instagram. At least I'm a lot more concerned about how everyone's lives are better than mine, because that's how conventional media works. It's about highlighting the best moments of someone's life, and then you're sitting in your underwear eating ice cream, and you're like, like,
you know,
seriously.
speaking about like eating things, one really weird combination that I had today, that I
Wow, okay,
wouldn't have, and I don't know why I'm going on this tangent. It's just something in my head right now.
okay.
Is I had coffee and also a mango alongside the coffee, which I don't know why I did that, but
Mm.
it just like it was nice. It
Was
wasn't
it like
bad.
contrasting? Was it like the mango was cold and the coffee was
Yeah,
hot?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
Oh my God.
it was like the bitter but sweet coffee with like a little bit of cold mango that has like that sweet
Hmm.
tangy flavor to
You're
it.
going all
And
gourmet on this right now. You're like, yay, dishes,
I'm trying to be bougie here.
bourgeois, bourgeois.
Bourgeois. No, but honestly, like
That is
it
a
just
crazy
felt so nice
combination.
just having that. But anyway, getting back to our topic.
Yeah. So
Um,
again, if
yeah,
if you're listening this to the podcast or to the episode for the first time, remember that Sheeples is a safe space where the entire community comes in, tunes into the podcast once a week. We aspire to create like a nice fireside chat, like a nice sleepover that you can have with friends that you can be honest with. It's just supposed to be like a very comforting space, a comfort spot where you can just shed inhibitions and
mhm,
just be. That's what we're trying to achieve, and
yeah,
and therefore mental health is a very natural fit in here, and
yeah,
uh, and that's why we're talking about anxiety today, because we feel it's like this looming specter. It's like the silhouette that exists in everybody's life, but
mhm,
for some reason we don't really talk about it. I mean, we're all talking about COVID right now, and it's the pandemic in the spotlight, and I'm sure many of y'all have the habit of switching on the news, or looking at statistics every 6 hours, every 3 hours,
yeah.
refreshing your Twitter feeds.
It's
So
been like
that's
everywhere.
visible. Yeah, you're right. It's everywhere. That's the visible
Yeah,
pandemic, but anxiety is the hidden pandemic. And as
yeah.
both of us, say repeatedly, anxiety and depression are going to be bigger killers than anything else. But the worst
They
part is,
have been. They already have been. Like the sad part of it all is like this has been a part of our lives, or rather lives of the sheeples in general, uh, for so
yeah,
long, and people like don't realize what's happening or why they are like under such duress or like they aren't feeling right, and these feelings can cause more problems than people realize. And
true.
like as much as this COVID is a big pandemic here, these kind of hidden, unknown pandemics, or rather unidentified pandemics, if you want to call them that, are are those things that like genuinely have been spread and been a very big thing for a very, very, very long time, and somehow have still been under the radar till today, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, I guess maybe the first thing we should talk about in all of this is what is anxiety. Like we've mentioned it so many times already. It's said
Yeah.
it's a hidden pandemic, but do you like truly know what anxiety is? And maybe you sheepers might be able to relate with it.
Yeah.
But like the simplest way,
Yeah, it's a word we use so colloquially, right? But
yeah,
like deep down, I don't think many of us know what it actually means. We have a personal meaning attached to it. Like, when we say, "Oh my God, I'm so stressed
mhm,
out." I mean, you definitely don't want to be clinically stressed out, because
yeah.
But then we all have our personal anecdotes. What about you, man? Like, what is? Wait, what was your name for this episode?
Just yeah, we didn't have like a name for myself
Really?
for this episode,
What
right?
irresponsible
Uh,
people!
so just to mention like here, for the newer sheepers here, usually like I don't I usually go by a different name every episode.
We're trying
Um,
to and all that.
We usually decide upon a name like in the beginning of the episode, but we just kind of forgot today.
Because you're
So
new, we're doing this for you.
yeah,
It's
so today maybe I can have my name
you
be
want to be a dementor, or is that too big?
Dementor. Dementor could be. I mean, I guess that's not a
And
bad
if you're a Potterhead, you know the reference.
one. But
I mean,
other
not
than the
not the
Dementor,
yeah.
I was gonna be like the anxious bean.
Ooh, anxious
Who
bean.
it just like I mean
Nice.
it's not as subtle, but it feels about right. I feel
No
like
man, go for it, go for it.
I'm
You're
that bean,
the
Mr. Bean.
you're that anxious. Hello, Teddy.
Uh,
All right, you're the anxious bean man.
but
Okay,
because Dementor can have a lot more, so I was just saying like
sure.
maybe
All right,
what.
okay.
Anyway,
Anxious
but
bean. Why don't you tell us what anxiety means to you? Like, how would
okay.
you explain
So
it to a 5-year-old?
one way I can the easiest way I can kind of explain anxiety to anyone is have you ever had that feeling in the pit of your stomach, that just like sinking feeling that you have, that kind of dread that there's something that's about to happen or something that is coming up, whether it be the smallest thing of like just a social gathering that you have to go to, whether it be a party or whether it be a presentation where you need to speak. It can be any kind of task, and it's just that feeling of dread that you get before it's going to happen. And that's, to me, that's usually for me, or that worry that I always have, where that worry could cause me to not focus on the task that I'm doing at present, and it just makes me think about what's going to happen or what's happening again and again and again, and it kind of takes over my brain. And at times, like for people, it can cause them to go blank. It can cause them to have a panic, kind of a panic attack in a way, because they aren't able to completely be comfortable with the idea of what's happening or what's going to happen, because it always, and this is something I read, like for some people it feels like they feel like the world is watching them and waiting for them to trip up so that they can laugh at them. And it's just that feeling of having that idea of like being not in that comfortable zone, being watched constantly, or having that feeling of you're going to mess up, and people are going to find laugh at you, and you're not going to be happy about it, is something that really gets to a lot of people. And it's just that worry, that constant state of worry, that can cause you a lot of harm, a lot of stress, can cause you physical ailments at times, which is one of the craziest things, because you don't realize that it's anxiety. Like there's a word for what you're feeling, and that's anxiety.
Yeah,
Um,
like deja vu, right? Not
yeah,
not like how I was older than I'm proud to admit when I discovered what deja vu is. Similarly, it happened to me with anxiety as well. I mean, at least for me
yeah,
personally, I'd like to state at the onset, and I'm not proud of this admission, but I was one of those people who thought that things like depression and anxiety and nervous breakdowns were I'll say it in Hindi, they were Amiro ki bimari, or
mm,
in English, they were illnesses of the affluent, of the rich people who can afford to sort of say that, hey, I'm feeling bogged down today and I can't do my thing. So I was one of those person, and as somebody who was again, I don't like to identify with the words extroverted or introverted, but for the sake of clarity, as somebody who was a little more bent towards being an extrovert, people for somebody who was very confident of speaking amongst large gatherings, who was never afraid to like take charge and take initiative
right.
of talking when there's like a silent pause. To me, things like anxiety seemed very strange, unless I had my mathematics paper. Then it was real. But I wrote that off because I knew I was a dumb kid. Like IQ
Right.
pretty low, certified medical issues, but shit like that. So
I accepted your statement that you were a dumb kid so easily. I didn't even
yeah,
question it.
yeah, hey, like इसको नहीं
uh,
आता है. I wouldn't doubt that.
no,
So
no, no.
for me,
Truth to
things
say,
like anxiety seem to be pretense, seem to be things that people pretended to have,
yeah.
and Oh gosh, I was wrong. And it was only till about 2 years ago, at 25, that I realized that anxiety is real, depression is real, mental illness is a real, and it was a real shocker for me because I started dwelling on how as a society we approach it. Like even if you're a 6-year-old kid, okay, and you fall down and say injure your knee and it's bleeding, you know that got to go wash it with water, put a band-aid.
Yeah.
Like even a 6-year-old knows that, but you absolutely have no clue what to do even as a 60-year-old if you have the equivalent of a physical cut but mental now.
Hmm.
Don't know what
And
to do with
I think this is something we kind of spoke about earlier as well, like in the original mental health pod, where
yeah,
like the episode where
mental
we were talking
hygiene.
about we know what to do with physical cuts and physical
Yeah,
ailments, but we aren't able to understand how
exactly.
to fight off our mental illnesses, right?
Exactly. So
And
for
the first thing is like you start with diagnosing it when you don't even know what it is.
yeah,
How do you even start to fight it off? And like
true.
Z just said, he realized what anxiety was when he was 25.
Yeah,
I
like
think
what okay, no wait, I'm not gonna be 100 for sure, but so,
that joke of like we are already in a midlife crisis at the moment.
quarter life crisis more like yeah,
Oh,
thirdly
uh,
life crisis. Okay, no, we're not gonna make mathematical jokes. Dumb kids don't have that right. We're
my
not a
God.
math. But yeah,
Yeah.
it- as a society, we don't take mental health seriously.
Hmm.
If you are living in a part of the world where your country or your area or your society takes it seriously, brilliant. Please send me an invitation and a plane ticket. I would love to come.
I
But
don't
at
think
least,
going anywhere at this time is a good idea, dude.
yeah. Okay, wait. Don't send me a plane ticket. You got me. Uh,
um,
okay. So at least where I was growing up, it's not like people deliberately ignored taking care of
right.
mental health. It's just that they weren't aware of what it was. I
Mhm.
mean, all the baby boomers and your parents and the Gen Xers that we've grown up around have unfortunately been way too busy to just put food on the table, and they
Mhm.
had to struggle from the grassroots just so that they could arrive to the so-called aspirational middle class, which, to be
Right.
honest, I think is an illusion, but people like to say it. I think you're either rich or poor, but then that's just the non-conformist side of me. Um, so for me, things like anxiety were a joke, and when I went through it, it took an external person to sort of listen to what I was going through and tell me that, hey, you know what, you're probably having anxiety, you're probably having a nervous breakdown right now, you're probably showing signs of depression, and that was a real eye opener.
And just to know, like, when was this that like you went through this kind of a phase where you were that anxious and that you had to sit down and speak about it?
So for me, the entire struggle started. So up till around till the age of 24, I thought I would live life very differently. I thought I would pursue multiple internships, and I would do a lot of social work, and I'd work with nonprofits, and I'd live a small but content life.
Right.
But as I transitioned from 24 to 25, I sort of had a realization that the bills to pay are bigger than I thought, and what it meant, like, to take care of a house, and I sort of, you could say, compromised and sacrificed my dreams, and I decided, hey, you know what, I'm gonna go do an MBA. I'm going to a college, and then and do a master's course, and become a
Just
corporate.
just an FYI, like that is where we met.
Yeah, that's that. And kids, that's how I met your mother. So,
Oh my God. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So doing an MBA was probably me betraying my identity, my belief, because I always thought that it, you don't need to spend a lot of money and 2 years of your time and go back to
Mhm.
academics to be successful. But I sort of betrayed on myself. I betrayed
Mhm.
myself, and that sort of haunted me. And I think that's when the first cracks sort of came up.
Developed in a way, you can say, right?
Yeah, and let me just say, I know what I sound like. You know, for a lot of people who might not be very privileged, you must be like, what the fuck, buddy? You you know, you sort of invested a good chunk of money and you had
Yeah.
the luxury of not earning anything for 2 years. What do you have to complain about? And you know, I think this is exactly the problem, and this
Yeah.
is what I
Yeah.
realized because at
we
least
need to
this,
we need to change this kind of mindset where, like, just because
this
you have money,
yeah,
it doesn't mean like you don't have problems. So one thing I once read, and this really is pertinent to this, is like money can't buy happiness, it just rents it, is something I read somewhere. And it's kind of like it's very correct in a way that, yeah, we do come from a very privileged position, and we know we need to check our privilege for sure, and we are one of those people who like are in a position to be able to, have such
ऐसा
opportunities
बोल रहे हैं कि एक तो पहले लड़का है, ऊपर से
uh,
नेटफ्लिक्स देखते हैं, इंग्लिश स्पीकिंग पॉडकास्ट बनाना है। बड़ी
yeah.
परेशानी करते हैं।
Yeah,
Like,
but honestly, like, it's one of those things that anybody at any time, at any point, can go through these problems. Whether you be from a like very rich background, or you be from more like humble background in general, it comes to the fact that like you cannot shun these problems away, because as we said, like these are genuine killers. These are problems that, like, just because you're somewhere or at a position of power or no, doesn't mean like you can't get affected and maybe do something that you might regret or your family might regret at some point. And you know what, like, just to be able to fight that off, we need to understand that anybody and everybody deserves the ability to speak out and be able to talk about their problems and be open with it and be comfortable with it, because the
exactly.
more we allow it, the more, the people can, like we say, we want to develop this safe space, because it is a required place, it is something people need, um which is
Something
sadly like,
super weird.
yeah, which is sadly like
Uh,
not available. But yeah, so anxiety for Z, like he said, I guess came around when he was 25, right?
Yeah, and
And
just one small thing I want to add is that for all of us out there who let's say are from slightly privileged backgrounds, or let's say are just doing okay, right? We can pay our bills and put food on the table. We don't have to be staying in penthouses and shit. But for that lot of us, that's let's say from the middle class, often when we are on the crux of the realization or sort of the insight that okay, you know what, we're probably having anxiety or we're having depression or we're having some kind of nervous breakdown. The worst part is that our mind sort of makes it worse for us because that's the thing we tell ourselves okay, hey, you have everything in life. There are so many people who don't have even 10% of what you do. And we think that would make us feel better, but that actually makes it worse. And that's something that I did a lot at the beginning. I tried to be in denial. I tried to be grateful. I tried to write a journal of things that I have that I am grateful about. And trust me, that made it worse for me because all I had to do was just stay with that feeling, not try to immediately shake myself out of it. And if you're out there and you guilt trip yourself, uh, you know, by telling yourself that hey, you have no right to be sad or you have no right to do this or to be or to be depressed because there are people out there who have much more. Don't do that. That's really toxic behavior. That's behavior that is going to make it worse. That
that's definitely true. Like, genuinely, don't do that to yourself, because the more you and don't do that to anybody else, to be fair, because as much as like we feel that we are not allowed these things, we shouldn't allow ourselves to feel this way. That is the problem. Like, you can't stop it, because it's a feeling, it's an emotion, it's your mental health, and it is one of those things that you don't have control over. If it happens, it, like, the only thing you can do is work on improving your condition. Work on, like, maybe helping yourself. Like, let yourself help yourself is the main thing, in a way.
Because I think deep down the biggest enemy. over here is going to be your own self. I mean, when
Yeah.
you're having anxiety or when you're having a panic attack or you're having a
Yeah.
breakdown, the worst part is your own mind, because instead of making you feel better, your mind literally becomes like,
Hmm.
a jailer that's making you feel worse. Like, to sort of draw a mental picture over here, imagine that, what's really happening is your mind is your jailer and you are the person being imprisoned. And that's ironic on so many levels, because you are imprisoning yourself. And that is so simple to look at, but at the same time so complicated, because your own mental prisons are the ones that are the most difficult to break out of. And that happens a lot when, because your mind isn't as much of a friend as you think. It's not like that little lovely, cute, lovey-dovey, pudgy voice on the back that is going to make you feel good. On
Yeah.
on most days, I feel my mind works against me. I literally feel like if I can win over my mind, I have nobody to be afraid of. But dude, this mind person is like someone who is, because at that time, like at the deepest pangs
uh,
of anxiety.
I got a really bad joke in my head, even though you're
Okay.
saying a very deep thing right now.
Negative time.
It's can I just say it?
Yeah, go for it.
It's as if the mind has a mind of its own. But
Ooh, no, dude, that is deep. You're tripping on a whole new level. But
I'm sorry.
oh,
I'm
no,
sorry. I had to.
that's that's fine. We need a little bit of humor in here, because
uh,
I
yeah.
think sounding preachy isn't going to solve it. I mean, to
Yeah.
all of
No,
you people
I'd rather
listening
not.
out there, I'm sure you have your WebMDs and you have your online therapists and you have those friends that you call up, and they end up making you feel worse for some reason, but you still keep calling them up.
No, but
But
one thing with therapists is like we encourage you to, if you require it, please get the right help. And it's not us, because we might be able to talk about these things, but we aren't professionals, right?
yeah,
We would still say, like, if you require it, definitely do speak to
if you were
professionals, because
professionals, we'd be really bad at it, I guess. We're doing a podcast to help fight anxiety.
no, but it's just something we want to say, because it's genuinely one of those things we encourage, and you know what, we need to make it normal to be able to seek help, right?
Yes,
So
I think the culture of
yeah.
asking for help needs to sort of begin doing its rounds.
Yeah. But you know what's funny for me, with anxiety, since you said that you realized it was at 25 years of age, you realized it was anxiety,
Mhm.
or you got to know what anxiety is. Um, for me, anxiety took place like a very very long time ago. From like the deep panic attack kind of
Mhm.
anxiety.
Mhm.
But just to preface it, like, anxiety itself, officially, technically, is just one of those reactions our bodies have as a fight or flight reaction, right? It's one of
Correct.
those things that help us like understand the threat of a situation, because it makes us feel like we need to do something at that point.
Mm.
But it starts affecting you every day when like it starts affecting your life when it's like taking a very big chunk of, making a very big impact on your daily lives, basically, right?
Mhm.
And that's when anxiety becomes a problem. And for me, I think one of the biggest things I never like one of the biggest things as a kid was I used to be a very quiet, scared kid, right? Like I did not know how to talk to people, and I've spoken about this before. I did not know what to do in social situations and all those kind of things, and and genuinely there have been times where when I had to go for like a birthday party, or we were invited to some kind of an event, and because I wasn't comfortable with such situations, or because like I felt like, I wasn't like confident enough in myself in some way, I used to constantly think and worry about, oh, it's going to come in 15 days. Oh my God, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And for those 15 days, I would be nervous wreck. And it had gotten to points where I used to genuinely fall sick. Like, I used to get fevers. I used to have vomiting. I used to have like stomach infections, just from the worry of like the small event that is going to happen like 15 days later, or a few days later, or whatever it might be. And that is like one of the biggest effects anxiety can have, is like it genuinely can make you ill. Like, the worry and the stress can be so bad that it can genuinely make you sick. and that's what used to happen to me. Like I never realized it until maybe last year when I really thought about it, like what I used to be like as a kid. I realized that I had severe anxiety problems, and it was a very weird feeling to realize like I somehow ended up fighting it and have become like the complete opposite to what I used to be as a kid now. And I'm at a very, 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 like, healthy place mental health wise in a way as compared to where I was as a kid. And this is very interesting to me because recently, like, I've not particularly had anxiety issues per se, because now I don't worry about presenting in front of people or talking to people. And I think Z can be a um kind of like a testimonial for me in that matter. That I can I changed a lot in college, or rather over like the past 10 years. I think I've gotten myself or understood my own attitude, my personality, and little by little every year I've been able to kind of improve my own like mental thought process and state, and so that I could get to a place where I would be comfortable with who I am, where I am, and what I want to do in the future. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that really helped me get out of the whole anxious state, if you want to
Mm-hmm.
call it that, right? Um, and I just like as a passing question, like, are you still dealing with like anxiety on an everyday basis, or are you also able to cope with it now to an
No,
extent?
I don't think I've found a way to cope with it. I think my biggest achievement in the past 1 year is being able to identify. Is I'm just at step one
I
where
think that's a very big step, man.
yeah,
Like,
5 out of
honestly, it
10
is.
times so I'll tell you my biggest struggle with anxiety happened
Mm-hmm.
in these past 3 months of your COVID lockdowns, right?
Right.
When everybody in the beginning was like, "Fuck, if you have shortness of breath, you have corona, you're gonna die," and I was out there getting freaked out because I had severe anxiety,
Right.
and I also want to point it out that it's not always necessary that anxiety is cause and effect. Okay, for all you logical people out there, for all you mathletes and geniuses, uh, cause and effect doesn't exist in every space of life, especially with things like depression and anxiety. Sometimes you could spend your entire life not knowing what's causing you anxiety, what's making you depressed, what's
Yeah.
causing you to have breakdowns. It's completely possible. For a few fortunate people out there, they find out the cause
Yeah.
to the effect. But for me, I still haven't found out, except for what we spoke about earlier, the whole MBA thing. But now that it's over, and I enjoyed the experience, there's no logical explanation for it to continue. So in these COVID times, having anxiety was something that made me even more anxious because now I was anxious about having corona. And
Yeah, and honestly, like, just for your Sheeples knowledge, like, I've heard him speak about it throughout, in like in bits and pieces. To be fair, because
yeah,
we spoke for the podcast like almost every like
hmm,
day in a way. Though this time I think we've not spoken for a week almost, but
yeah, correct.
like we were speaking on a daily basis, and just like hearing him worry about it, and then like he did speak to me about like I don't want to read about what's happening with corona, and I don't want to read like stats and all that, and that kind of was kind of also making it worse, because it
Yeah,
is
I'm,
in
I'll
your
be I'll
head,
be
I
honest.
think.
I was shitting bricks, man. I was super
Yeah.
super super scared, and I have no shame in admitting it.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
so scared that after I don't know, I think probably a good 5 6 years. I'm saying that I'm not ashamed to admit. I'm actually proud to admit it. But after about a good 5 7 years, I think I've cried, and I was
Mm.
that afraid that on days when I was mistaking my anxiety breathlessness for corona breathlessness, I used to be so afraid, and I used to weep, and I used to just not want to get out of bed, and just cry for no reasons. And
Mm-hmm.
this, I mean, as a society, you look at a 27-year-old crying and you find it strange. And I
Yeah.
think that's exactly the culture that we need to break out of, because fear is does not know an age. Fear doesn't have a age threshold. And for me at least, being the guilt was massive. Like the guilt was, so I sort of feed a small group of street dogs and cats.
Mm-hmm.
So even when the country went on lockdown, somebody had to give them food. And there are people who much better than me and bigger than me who do a lot more. I did a very small drop in the ocean, and I used to go out every day, and I used to
I mean, you're
be
still like taking the effort, man. So
yes,
don't put yourself like low on that bar. It's
I
still a good thing that you're doing.
yeah, just a little bit that I could do. And I used to be super afraid because it was out there, and the streets were empty. But just because the country is locked down doesn't mean that your street animals are going to not be hungry. So I used to
Mm-hmm.
go down and I used to feed them. And and then I started getting these kind of thoughts that, shit, what if I have the virus? And it led to a bigger guilt trip that, okay, because I went out of the house, I got the virus, which went to a bigger guilt trip that, shit, now I'm going to give it to my mom, who's much older and who's at a higher risk. So these chains and these different ladders of guilt just trapped me so hard that there were days where I would literally sleep 12 to 13 hours a day and still not want to get out of
Yeah.
bed, because getting out of bed meant the chain of thought starting. And
Yeah.
it's been a rough 3 months. And like this guy said, i have I have not watched the news for weeks at stretch, because I found that to be even more anxiety, something laden with even more anxiety.
Anxiety
But he's
inducing.
he's dealt with these 3 months much better than I have. So I mean,
Um,
kudos to you for that, man.
Hey, the main thing, I think one of those things was that helped me through it was being informed, to be fair. I didn't, and it was as much as it's a very, very, very scary time to be in.
Mhm,
It's also one of those things where we are taking the right precautions, right? We are staying at home, we are not getting out, and I think that just made me happy that at least what until and unless we take the right steps and don't like go out and take those risks in general, we can be safe. But the only thing, the other factor of it all was like I was just looking at the news so that I could know what's happening and whether the situation is improving or not. Yes, it's been bad, but I felt like maybe if I can focus on things that I want to do right now and make use of this time, um, and this was for me. This doesn't have to be for everyone else. Like some people can relax during this time. People can take time to themselves and get a break from everything that's happening in the world. That's
mhm,
all fair. For me, the best way to cope was putting myself into something that would take my mind away from everything else and maybe help me focus on what I want to do. And one thing was this podcast, which was a massive, massive, massive help. And the other thing that has been a constant for me through these 3 months now is music. I do like playing the guitar, learning how to produce. Has really been like one of those things where I can just let be, and I think this is something that's maybe true for Z as well because he's also
mhm,
been playing the guitar a lot.
mhm.
And it's just one of those things that
Yeah, I can now
calms
play
me down.
after 3 months of intense practice. I can now play Happy Birthday to You. So yay, I'm feeling
Hey,
it.
that's still an achievement, man. Like that,
That
that's
is an
awesome.
achievement. I'm gonna be quite the pop star on birthday.
But yeah, so I mean, like I said, like coping with things isn't easy, and for me, for you right now, you've recently just gotten to know about like what anxiety is and what it feels like,
Mhm.
and maybe you've not yet figured out how you would cope with it, right? Like I think you're struggling with that, from what I know. Um,
Yeah.
if I'm like not saying anything wrong here,
Yeah,
but
I still am. I mean, I'm not even close to overcoming it, but
mhm,
it's just that some days I can wake up and go like, okay, this is not a
yeah,
physical body issue. This is actually a mind mental issue. that's
Yeah,
maybe manifesting in a physical form. I think they call it psychosomatic, right? Like shit in
right.
your mind that
Yeah.
makes your physical body feel
Yeah.
like there's something wrong there.
But for me, and this is again something that I just want to point out is since I didn't know what I was going through, it took me about 10 years to get even where I am.
Whoa.
I'm just happy that you know it and you can
Yeah.
take the right steps to at least cope with it to an extent to understand how to go
Mm-hmm.
improve your position from where you are.
Mm-hmm.
But over the 10 years that I've been like trying to change myself, I've learned
Mm-hmm.
a few things that help me, that I don't know if it helps anybody else out there. You can try it out. It's not the easiest way to it's not the easiest thing to you do it once and you'll be fine. It's not that like just quick or
I
effect
mean, like
like
it's not a band-aid.
yeah,
Ki- Or
it's not a band-aid. It's not something that will just magically fix you up, but it
yeah.
is something that will help you get a start.
Maybe
Right.
then it is a band-aid, yeah. Like
I mean, if you can start at some point,
yeah.
uh I think it's one of those things, like maybe if I can be of help, like, and this might help you as well. See, so you know what, like, let me just say
Sure.
one thing.
Okay.
Is first of all, the one thing that I learned is, if we do things, if we are doing things for the first time, whatever it might be, whether it be thinking about things or whatever it might be, like if we are going to do a presentation, and my problem was more so related to public stuff, or being out there, which was my problem specifically.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I told myself, and I started learning to tell myself, is that one, I can do things badly for the first time, because there's always room for growth. You don't need to be perfect the first time you do something. There are times that you will have to learn from your mistakes. If you don't have flaws, you aren't human. Like, to err is to be human, is the thing, right? And if we don't make like any mistakes, how will we grow? And if we are perfect from the start, then what's the fun in life? Right. So one thing I kept telling myself is, if I'm doing something, let me do it badly first and then improve, because I've already done it badly at that point. I'm already bad at it. Why not, like, improve from there? We'll get better. We'll get to a point where we'll be fine. We can do it confidently. That was one of the first things that I learned. And the other thing was that once I started doing it, I started being able to let myself go, give myself that leeway that, chalega, ab kharab to kar sakta ho, then why, if I can do it badly, then why not? Like, I'll be fine. I can improve now. And allowing yourself to do it is the second step, right? Do it badly, but allow yourself to do it as well, right? Because the moment you allow it for yourself is the moment you kind of feel that liberation key. Like, I think I'm starting to understand who I am and where I need to go and where I want to be, right? uh, Ahead in life. And the
Uh-huh.
third thing that I learned is, just like the fact that the more I do it, the more I'll believe in myself. Like, love what you do, believe in yourself, and be confident in yourself, because that is a very key factor to have in your life, to just like be able to be comfortable with where you are and do what you are doing. Because if you're not gonna believe in yourself, it's usually gonna cause you to doubt yourself all the time. And self doubt is important to grow, but like, don't let it consume you. I have been consumed by self doubt a lot, but the more I learned that, and let myself know that it is not like, not the place where I'm going to be forever, because I know that I can be a better person and be able to improve, is what helped me get out of all of this, right? And if you can't give yourself that self belief right now, just know that, whether it be your loved ones, your family, whoever it is, they believe in you. We are like, the sheeples believe in you, and you're going. If you need to hear this, just know that there are people who believe in you.
We believe
Just
in you, sheeple.
Yeah, and just don't let it consume you. Like, know that there are people behind you. There's always going to be someone there to support you. Just be able to, like, give yourself that leeway, learn, and be able to grow. That's how, the more you tell yourself that, the more you will start getting comfortable with the position where you are, and how you can grow from there on. Because then you'll know that you are a person who can make mistakes, but you are also a person who will learn from those mistakes. And that's, I think, one thing that helped me with anxiety a lot, um over the time, over 10 years. It took me 10 years, but I kind of was able to get out of it. And I don't know, like, I don't know if it'll help you, Z, because your situation is a little more um like, I guess, a little different from what I was
Yeah,
in.
I think that's what I mean. Your what you said is, I'm sure, is going to be absolutely helpful to half of the people listening to it, or probably one fourth, or I don't know. Even if it makes difference to one person, I think
Yeah,
it's the goal achieved. But that's one of the tricky parts about this topic, about anxiety, or traumatic stress disorders, or
yeah,
panic attacks, is that it is so subjective from
yeah,
person to person that it's I mean, of course, I'm sure out there medically they put patients like us into buckets, and they know each archetype. They try to generalize as much as they can, but I think the reality is that each case is its own universe,
yeah.
and it's so subjective. Like for me, 5 years ago, gratitude and somebody believing in me, and inspirational books and quotes really helped. They felt like they were sort of fitting the bill. But where I am right now, if someone tells me stuff like, hey, you know what, be grateful for things you have, or write down three things, or make a gratitude journal, or you know what, there are people out there who have it worse, that doesn't help anymore.
Yeah.
At least the space I am in right now, um, the kind of advice I want to hear from people, um, and is maybe what I would give to everybody out there, is on days when you can afford to stay with that feeling.
Hmm.
What we try to do is we try to rush away, we try to run away as fast as we can because it's so alien and it's so bizarre that it weirds us out, and we don't want to be there because, let's face it, at least for me, anxiety feels like skydiving and
Yeah.
falling for eternity, and
Yeah.
that's not a very comfortable feeling because fight or flight
Definitely.
is,
Like, I think, I agree with you there. Right. It's one of those feelings where you just
those
can't.
dreams where you
Yeah.
have where you're falling, and you
Yeah.
suddenly wake up.
You can't. You're not waking up at this point right now, right? You're
Yeah,
just like,
you're
it's
just
a free
falling.
fall. It's a free fall, and you
It's a
don't know
free
where
fall.
your parachute is at the time. At the
Exactly.
moment.
So for and that's
Yeah.
not a very comfortable feeling. So I mean, if I had to really tell somebody out there things that helped me out, I would tell you that if you can afford to stay with it,
But the
stay
main thing
in.
is, like, you need to try to find that parachute, right? Give yourself
No,
that
no,
opportunity.
exactly. And that's where I'm coming from, the opposite end. I'm
Mhm.
saying that if you can, let's say that you can afford to not go to work, or you
Right.
can afford to not work from home, or you can afford to not do your chores for the day, it's okay, stay in bed,
Yeah.
stay with that feeling, because sometimes if you aren't in a pool of water, no matter how hard you try to swim, you aren't getting anywhere.
Hmm.
And that's exactly what it was like for me. What really helped was when I stopped fighting it. I didn't give into it. I didn't take it negatively, but I
Hmm.
stopped trying to win it. And that might sound very counterproductive right now. It might sound very averse. It might sound illogical, but trust me, it helped me.
A very
Uh,
different situation in this matter, right?
Yes.
Like,
Again, remember, I'm not saying be defeated. I'm
yeah,
not saying that give into negative thoughts. I'm not saying go into self-destructive mode. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying don't try to fight it.
yeah,
Try to, and this is again a little more weird than what I said earlier. Try to look at what you're feeling from a very third person point of view. Try to become an observer of sorts. Try to detach from your physical body, and just shut your eyes and visualize what you're going through. Like become that security guard who's sitting with 50 screens of CCTVs and who's just observing, who's
yeah,
who's not taking part in any of those screens.
Yeah.
And then this is where it becomes a little spiritual, okay? This is where it goes into a little bit of meditation, yoga, and that fits, right? The guys from India, so we're into the tantra. No, that was a lame joke. What I'm trying to say is sometimes, okay, I'm going to just stick with that. If you aren't in a pool of water, no matter how hard you try to swim, you aren't getting anywhere. So that's number one. Number two, don't let don't let yourself be discouraged by saying things like people have it worse off. You have it much better in life. You have money, you have food on the table. What right do you have to be depressed? Don't do that to yourself. That arc of thinking isn't going to help. If that arc of thinking comes to you, try to do a little bit of self love and say that not everybody is the same, and this is happening to me. I don't fit into an archetype, and just because people have it worse doesn't mean I have to automatically be cheered up.
Yeah.
That's number two. These are two things that I can tell you I did differently, and they helped a little bit. And this is where I am. And it's
I think it's as I said, like these are very different situations we've both been in, and each and every one will have their own way to cope with
yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
I think we maybe if we can learn from each other
We need
and
to
try to
crowdsource
understand. Yeah.
advice, right? And,
Yeah.
and, and if you're
And
out there, you've been through even a day more than us or anybody else, you owe it to everyone
yeah,
to put it out there of things that helped you.
please share. And one of the biggest things we can say is
You know
if
what?
you
I
have,
just had this brainwave.
yeah,
Let's
yeah,
create a crowdsourced document. Let's put it out there. After the end of this
yeah,
episode, we try to sort of have a public Excel sheet of sorts,
yeah,
and we'll try to crowdsource all the kind of advice that we can get. And anybody who's listening out there, if you feel that you aren't able to find what helps you, probably that Excel sheet at a glance could give you like
yeah.
a menu card of
we,
advice, and you could choose what
we'll
you
put
want.
that Excel sheet on on our article that we have written for anxiety.
Yeah,
So if you want to
perfect.
ever like access that document, you can always check the article out, and at the bottom of the article you'll find that document. We are also going to be putting like a whole list of therapists that can help you out if you ever require it. Like there's another sheet that was created and curated by Tatas that has therapists from all around India that can help you with your whatever issue you're going through, and it has details about each and every therapist, so you can whoever you find like you're comfortable talking to, you can take the name. There's the numbers given. You can just contact them and just like speak to them, have an appointment, do whatever you require. But I think we want to do this because it's, as we said, it's one of those things that's required. And one thing we really want to say is if you think your friend or your family or member or whoever is like maybe suffering from something like this, please do like try to help them if you've gone through something like this, because the smallest advice, or the smallest like helping hand, or a hand on someone's shoulder can make the biggest difference in their life, and we don't realize it. So if you can, uh, please give that person like just that small push in the back, that we are there, we are always with you, and don't worry. Yeah, like if you ever require it, we are available. It might just help them in some way or the other. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
think
we
the
we want
crowdsourced
to help.
document idea is something we really want to do. I really really feel like we should. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll put our own kind of methods we've coped with in that, and
Mhm.
please do put your own. Like we would really encourage it. We would love it if you all are actually putting in your own ideas and thoughts and ways that you've coped through, and hopefully, yeah, I think we can make something really cool out of it. Something that could help people out of it at least. So yeah, I guess I think that's all we could speak about on anxiety.
Yeah,
It's been
I
a
hope we
very
helped. I'm saying I hope we helped, and we wanted to just bare ourselves and make it very
Yeah,
personal, so we could be very honest, and sort of start or maybe even restart a culture of honesty where and then and in that case I'm really happy of some I know I've seen a few 18, 19, 20 year olds who've had the courage to put out photos on Instagram where they're
yeah,
crying and writing about their own battle with mental health,
yeah,
and I'm absolutely certain that the younger generation has it much more figured out, and they're better just because they are acknowledging, and I think
yeah,
that's a great first step. I mean, if I had taken the step of acknowledging at 15 instead of 25, whoa, this would have been a very different ride. But I mean, hats off. If you're somebody who does that,
yeah.
I really respect that. Please let us know what the good work that you do, and we'll plug you in because
Yeah,
we
yeah, yeah. We
really
would we would
we
love
do
to plug
deserve to
you.
be
Yeah,
out there.
for sure. Just and we would love feedback on what you thought about this whole episode on mental health, because if we are missing out on
Mhm.
something, please do let us know. We'd love to, do
Yeah.
more stuff around mental health in
I know
general.
y'all are unhappy that there was just one bad joke over here, and I'm disappointed too. There should have been more, but yeah, we're trying to be a little
um,
somber.
yeah, I think this episode is supposed to be more somber anyway.
Yeah.
We'll get back to the bad jokes next
We
time,
will, we will, we will
for
do
sure.
something fun. But anyways, this was comforting for me to talk to. It
Yeah,
felt good admitting it out there, putting it out there that I am human, I am mortal, and I have more flaws than
yeah.
perfections. So this is
Um,
Mortal
but
Z.
and this is mortal anxious being.
Signing off. Remember, it's your flaws that make
Yeah,
you human, right? Not
yeah.
your perfections.
And yeah, this is us signing off for sure. Goodbye, sheepos.
Peoples, we will see you soon. Bye bye.
Sheepos. Bye.